if I told you the biggest revolution in electronics isn't happening in China or the US? It's happening right now in Biwadi. A secret empire is growing in silence, one washing machine, one air conditioner at a time. PG Electroplast, not a tech startup, not a household brand, but they made your AC, your TV, your cooler. And last year, their revenue surged 77%, nearly 5,000 crores. No ads, no billboards, no noise. So how did this silent giant take over your living room? PGEL doesn't sell products, they manufacture them for 35 plus global brands. Blue Star, Voltas, Haier, Whirlpool, even modern e-com brands. And here's where it gets strange. Most of the products they make carry no PGEL label. It's invisible manufacturing. Their model is so efficient. They're now building 4 new mega factories, ACs, washing machines, coolers, and a whole new refrigerator line from scratch. China is losing ground. PLI incentives in India just ended. Most players are cutting back. But PGEL, they're doubling their gross block. And that's no coincidence. They've quietly become a key replacement for Chinese outsourcing. The numbers prove it. AC business grew 128%, washing machines 43%, coolers 80%. This isn't just manufacturing, it's market capture. Now here's the creepy part. Despite all this, their margins haven't exploded. Why? Because PGEL doesn't want fat margins. They want scale. Volume is their weapon. They're chasing 5x asset turns and 30% revenue growth year after year. And they fund all of this from cash. PGEL is now net cash positive with 980 crores on hand. But something new is coming, and it's chilling. PGEL is building India's first fully captive compressor plant. Why is that big? Because right now, 85% of compressors in India are imported, mostly from China. If they succeed, they break the last link. And here's the kicker. It's not just for them. They'll start supplying competitors too. Wait, what about the 300 crore refrigerator plant they're building? It doesn't exist yet, but they've already hired the R&D team, finalized land, and yes, they already have anchor clients. In FY27, this silent business will crash headfirst into India's most competitive white goods segment. It's not speculation, it's already happening. PGEL isn't just doing ACs and fridges. They're moving into tooling, motors, PCBs, fans, sanitary ware. They're building everything for everyone, and nobody's watching. With every new greenfield unit, they're becoming less of a vendor and more of an OEM superpower. So here's the twist nobody's prepared for. PGEL isn't competing with Dixon or Amber. They're replacing China itself. With full vertical integration, 10 plus factories, and control over every piece of the product, they could become India's first true global contract manufacturing empire. And no one will even know their name. But here's the part no one talks about. When you control the supply chain, the margins, and the R&D, you don't need brands. You become the brand. So the real question is, will PGEL remain the ghost in your gadgets, or will they emerge as India's Foxconn? What if I told you India might already be building the tech factories of the future, but nobody noticed? A mysterious electronics company buried deep in Mysore is quietly doing what China doesn't want anyone to know. And the creepiest part? They may soon control your car, your space tech, and even your power grid. Back in the 1980s, nobody paid attention to the small town of Mysore. But behind industrial fences, an unassuming group of engineers were already working on something strange. They weren't building computers. They were building the future of control itself. Fast forward to today, and Kaynes Technology India Limited isn't just building electronics anymore. They're building everything. From EVs and satellites to smart meters, railways, medical devices, and even AI-driven surveillance, Kaynes quietly powers it all. But the weirdest part? They don't just manufacture. They design, engineer, and embed intelligence into the systems. It's not an electronics company. It's a control company. Recently, they acquired a Canadian electronics firm, and while the media barely blinked, insiders noticed something strange. The clients? US government contractors, petroleum giants, medical multinationals. And suddenly, Kaynes had access to things India's government never talked about publicly. For years, global OEMs depended on China for electronics. But trade wars, espionage fears, and supply chain shocks changed everything. Suddenly, everyone wanted a China plus one, and Kaynes was waiting. They quietly built massive facilities, and now, US and EU companies are shifting critical components from China directly to Mysore. Kaynes isn't just doing electronics anymore. They're entering space. They helped with Chandrayaan-3, and now they're building payloads and components for India's next wave of military satellites. They even formed a new arm, Kaynes Space Tech. And here's the part no one talks about. Some of this tech could be used for military surveillance and satellite-based weapon systems. Publicly, Kaynes is just another electronics player. But if they control devices in your car, your home, your hospital, your factory, even your satellite communications, who really controls the world of tomorrow? In May 2025, Kaynes revealed something shocking. Their order book had ballooned to 65,969 million. And guess what? Most of that was not from Indian clients. Strategic defense, aerospace, and North American giants are now relying on Kaynes. And they're building two secret facilities, one for chip packaging, OSAT, and one for advanced circuit boards, HDI PCBs. But here's the twist. Some insiders claim these factories were fast-tracked after geopolitical tensions with China escalated. What happens when one company builds the brain of everything and no one is watching? And the scariest part? It might already be happening and no one even noticed. What if the future of global electronics isn't being built in Silicon Valley, but in a place you've never heard of? There's a company quietly building the backbone of the tech world. Not Google, not Apple, something far stranger. It doesn't make smartphones, it doesn't sell laptops, but it might be inside every device you own in 5 years. Started in 1999 in the shadows of India's rising tech scene, Avalon Technologies began as just another component builder. But what it's become is something else entirely. Today, Avalon operates 14 hyper-specialized factories in both India and the United States. But here's the twist. They're not just building parts. They're designing, prototyping, and producing entire critical systems for aerospace, defense, clean energy, and even rail signaling systems. In just one quarter, Avalon's profit shot up 243%. Revenue surged 58% year on year. And guess what? Almost 90% of that production is happening inside India. But despite its scale, no one talks about it. Why? Avalon isn't your typical manufacturing company. It offers end-to-end electronic solutions, from PCB design to magnetics to box builds. And yet, it stays almost entirely off the radar, because the clients, they want it that way. Avalon is embedded in high-security sectors, railway anti-collision systems, EV motors built in partnership with Zepco, drone controllers, satellite communication. In FY25, Avalon's order book swelled by 29%. But here's where it gets wild. Long-term contracts locked in for 3 years are up 18%. The demand isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. And global trade tensions? They're helping Avalon. As companies flee China, Avalon stands ready, with plants in both India and the US. While most tech giants burn billions in R&D, Avalon runs an asset-light model with an asset turnover of 7.5x. Translation? They're squeezing more revenue from every rupee invested. And it's virtually debt-free. Their new Chennai plant, built to last 18 months, filled up in 4. From EVs to satellites, Avalon's components are in systems we're not allowed to name. But here's a hint. Their collaboration with Zepco includes drone motor controllers and defense-grade power systems. Avalon isn't just a supplier. It's becoming a gatekeeper to the next wave of global electronics. But here's the reveal nobody saw coming. Avalon plans to double in 3 years. And for the first time, India might outpace the US. Not in software, but in hardware manufacturing. If you think Apple or Nvidia are the future, you're watching the wrong side of the supply chain. So why is no one talking about Avalon? Maybe because the tech wars of the future won't be fought over chips. They'll be fought over who builds them. What if I told you the world's biggest tech brands don't make their own phones anymore? And one Indian company you've never heard of is building them all. This is not a startup. It's not a government scheme. It's Dixon Technologies. and they're quietly building a global empire. Let's start here. Noida, India, a new factory, 1 million square feet, but not for phones, for phone components. Displays, camera modules, lithium-ion batteries. Why now? Because Dixon isn't just assembling phones anymore, they're replacing China. They already manufacture for Motorola, Xiaomi, Tecno, Infinix, Alcatel, and even Nothing. But now, they've signed a secret JV with Vivo, one that needs government FDI approval just to begin. And exports? They're not just shipping to Africa anymore. North America is next. Motorola's order book is full. Longcheer and Xiaomi are scaling. Production is ramping to 3.5 million smartphones per month. But here's what no one's asking. Why would the world's biggest brands rely so heavily on a single Indian manufacturer? The answer is leverage. Dixon has built something few can match. Negative working capital, 48.5% return on capital, 32.5% return on equity. And they're not just in phones. They're building laptops for Lenovo, Asus, and HP. They just tied up with Taiwan's Inventec, one of the top 5 global ODE. Imagine that. Indian-made servers, SSDs, and memory modules from a brand you've never heard of. But Dixon's reach doesn't end at screens. They're quietly taking over your living room. TVs, washing machines, refrigerators, even robotic vacuum cleaners. They've captured 48% of India's outsourced fridge market in their first year. And they're moving into smart signage, digital billboards, and industrial displays. This isn't just manufacturing, it's a stealth takeover. So why is Dixon really doing all this? Because government PLIs are ending soon, and when the subsidies dry up, only the leanest survive. Dixon's answer? Backward integration, automation, component-level control, and something else. They're forming deep contractual alliances where brands have to manufacture with Dixon. They don't just make your gadgets anymore. They own the supply chain. They've even started manufacturing devices with no logos. Who's buying them? And why don't they want you to know where they came from? Could India's biggest tech revolution be hidden in plain sight? Because here's the part no one talks about. If Dixon controls the devices, the components, and the factories, what's stopping them from launching a global brand of their own? And the scariest part? They might already have started.